Hey everyone, in today's video, we are going to make our React apps more user-friendly by adding progress bars using Tailwind CSS. And yes, we will be using real API calls to show you how it works in actual projects. Now, progress bars are not just for show. They give your users feedback while your app fetches the data or processes it. Now, without them, your app feels frozen or broken. This is one of those little things that takes your project, from basic to pro. So without any further ado, let's start with the code. All right, so we are in our local projects folder, and the very first thing that we'll need to do is to set up a new project. Now, for those who are familiar with how to create a new project for React and Tailwind using Wait, feel free to skip this section. But for those who are not aware, don't worry, we'll go through this step by step. So the very first thing is, of course, we'll have to create a React project using Wait. So I'm going to use vm create Wait at latest, and it will ask us the project name, progress bar. Of course, we are using React with JavaScript. So the project is now done, like created, but we'll need to go ahead and install the dependencies. So I can use npm install or npmi. It's kind of like a shortcut, and this shouldn't take more than a couple of seconds. Once this is done, we'll just run the server once. But yeah, before doing that, we'll have to install the Tailwind because that doesn't, get installed as part of the default dependencies that we have over here. So for that, we'll have to follow a separate set of steps. We go to the Tailwind CSS website, and here, this is the using Vite section. So I'll have to, install this. So I'll just paste this. And this is done, but we also have a couple of more steps to follow. So in the config file, we'll need to update this to tell React that we are using Tailwind as well. And just one more thing, in the index.css, can remove all this. Just copy this. All right. And app.css is not something that we really need, so actually we can delete it. And in the app.jsx, let's remove all this. And before we actually get started with the project changes, and this is actually a ritual that I do. So what we'll do is we'll just make sure that this is set up properly. So I'll just run the dev server once with some Tailwind classes. So bg green 900 and text to excel, text white, and we can say hello world. Let's make this text green 500, a little bit more bright. What do you say? Yeah. And in order to run the dev server, I'll just go npm run dev. Okay, and it is hosting on localhost 5174. There you go. It's present. All right, this means that our project has been installed properly without any issues. So let's go ahead and make the changes now. We are going to create a simple loader and nothing else. So I'm going to remove all this, and we could have created this, a loader here itself. But what I want to do is I want to follow, proper practices. So I'll just create a new components folder over here, and I'll name this progress bar.jsx. Okay, and I have a couple of extensions installed. So if I just do rfce, it will give me a template. So if I save this, and if I come over here, I can call this progress bar component. So this, prevents our code from being messy. And now, like, of course, we won't feel much of a difference. Like I could have written this over here as well. But in larger projects, this will like definitely count. Like you cannot make the changes directly in the home directory or in the app component. We should always try to separate our elements. All right. Let's get started with the designing of this progress bar first, and then we will implement the API call. Okay, so I'll just create a div over here, and this is the outermost div. So we'll make this a flex box, and let's center everything. And of course, this depends on your requirements. For now, I want a big loader which will cover the entire screen. So I'm giving minimum height screen and minimum width screen as well. But I don't want to expand it beyond a certain position. So I'll just give maximum width of medium. Okay. And here we will have two separate, divs over here. One div will have the linear progress bar, and the bottom div will have the percentage, like, how much percentage it has progressed as of yet. So I'll just do this. And here it will be a span tag. So it's going to be text to Excel. That would be enough. And font maybe semi bold. For now, let's stick with this. Okay. And now we need to uh, give some background color over here. So in a progress bar, like we have, the background color and the progress color. So for example, a background will be gray and progress will be green or blue, right? So as it moves from left to right, we know that this is progressing. So this div, the outer div, this is going to be the background layer. So it is usually gray or darker shades of gray or something. So let's go with BG gray 200, and width I want to be half of the entire screen, and the corners I want it to be rounded. Okay, and inside this we will have another div. Let's just save this so that it formats. Yeah, and I'll pull this down a bit. Okay, this div, of course, this is going to be empty. It's just about styling, and this is the actual progress bar, the progress bar which moves from the left to right. So we'll make this a bright green so we don't have to worry about a dark mode, light mode, but of course you can make changes to it accordingly. And height of 4. So this is, the thickness for progress bar, and this is going to be fully rounded as well. And we are going to make the transitions a bit linear. So it's smooth. So transition all, and duration is 300 milliseconds. And you can just, play around with this. This is like my usual go-to styling. So I'm going ahead with this. And if we save this, we'll just see like a green bar, because of course we have not fit the, like, change the length of this green bar, the inner bar which we have over here. So if I come, see. So let's change this. And this is going to be dynamic, right? So let's keep this separate. And we are going to use a width styling. And this is going to be variable that we're going to pass over here. So for now, I'm just going to give 24, and we'll have to keep this a percentage. So this is very important actually. I come, see, this is 24 now. And if I change this to 50, it would be exactly 50%. So so the styling is now done. Now we'll have to make this dynamic, and that is usually the challenging part, right? So let's move on to that now. Okay, so we are done with the styling, and now we want to include the logic to call the API and actually show the real progress which happens. And in order to do that, the very first thing that we need to do is create a hook. Like again, like we could have, if you would have wanted to, written the logic over here, but we're trying to, follow the best practices over here, and that is what we do in this channel. So let's go ahead and create a new folder. We'll call this hooks, and we can name this hooks use API progress dot not JSX, sorry, of course it's JS because it's not going to return any JSX element. Okay, and first let's write the function, use API progress. All right, and we are going to use a state, of course, because that's how we are going to maintain the state of the progress, right? So we can use state for it. Progress, set progress, use state hook, importing, and by default, it's going to be 0. And we also need to use effect hook, right? Because the moment this component loads, we want to show the progress. So I'm going to use call use effect. There we go. And it will take a callback. Now, for now, let's keep the dependency array empty. We'll see towards the end like what we're going to do with it. And this function is going to return the progress, and this progress is something that we will be calling in our progress bar. All right. So let's make a couple of more changes. Then we'll come over here and we'll just write the export statement. So export default, use API progress. All right. So you can call this over here, const progress. Oh, sorry. Use API. Yeah, it should detect it. This progress will be over here. All right, we are good. Okay, now is the important logic, right? Now we need to call a API. So which API do we call? So in the market, like there are so many different APIs available. You can choose any one of them, or if you build your own, you can use it. But for now, just for this, demonstration purposes, I'm going to use the very famous JSON placeholder API. So this will give us, these many posts, and this is like quite, good amount of data. We have inside each object a user ID, title, body. So yeah, we can go ahead and do something with this. All right, so this is going to be the API logic that we're going to write now. And I'm going to use fetch. So you can use Axios or, something else if you want. But yeah, just for simplicity purposes, I'm going to use this. And this is actually quite simple. It returns a promise. So we'll do then, and we'll convert this to JSON, rest.json, and then we are going to chain it. Okay, and the majority of our processing logic is going to be part of this then block. So we are getting a list of objects, right? So in order to process it, we don't have any database connections or anything. This is just a tutorial video kind of a. So let's loop through it for now. Okay. So total items is going to be res.length, and we're just going to write a simple for loop. So let is equal to I is equal to 0, I is less than total items, and then the for loop is completed. And inside it, we want to set the progress percentage, right? And how do we calculate percentage? It's quite simple. So we'll call it math.round, and I plus 1 divided by the total items that we have, because index starts at 0. So we are going to do I plus 1, and there you go, total items into 100. Now this percent, what we are going to do, we are going to set the progress to this, right? So percent, sorry. Yeah. Now what will happen is, the moment this percent changes in every loop, this progress gets updated. And once this progress is updated, it will reflect over here in the progress bar, and our width will go from 0 to 100. So if I save this and come over here, refresh, there you go. But the problem is it's happening too fast, right? It's almost instantaneous. Now we can add our logic to write that percentage symbol over here as well. Progress and percentage. So you can actually see it happening. See, it's 0 to 100. It's loading very quickly. So of course, this won't happen in real world because in real world applications, API responses usually take a couple of seconds, especially when there's complex processing or heavy data fetching happening in the backend. But in our case, since we are mocking the API, it will return almost instantaneously, and that's what is happening. That's what we just saw now. So our progress bar like completes so fast, we are barely able to see it in action. So what I'm going to do is, right, I'm going to simulate actual processing time by adding a short pause, just a couple of seconds, by writing a sleep logic. So let's go through that and see how we are going to implement it. Okay, so in here, right, in our fetch logic, what we are going to do, the moment we set the progress bar, we are going to write a sleep logic over here. Okay, so sorry, sleep. Okay, so it will take in variable. Let's make this dynamic. So this will allow us to, set how much slow or how much pause we want to give during the processing, like during the mocking that we are doing for the processing of the API. So delay, we can introduce this delay as a prop over here, like not a prop, I mean parameter. So sleep, now we need to define the sleep. So we can define it as a function. So what we can do, we can write sleep logic over here. And what it's going to do, it's going to take this delay, right? And this delay is going to be in milliseconds, of course. So milliseconds, we can call this, anything you want. It's a parameter, of course. And what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to return a promise. So new promise. Again, like you won't be needing all this in your real world application. Of course, you want to make it as fast as possible. But if you notice, right, if your application is working too fast and you want to add a delay factor to it, then of course you can use this logic. But we have to be very careful when you're introducing these kind of, pause logic in our applications. They can, come back to bite us. So gotta be careful. And of course, the resolver. So we are going to use the set timer that we have. And in this, we don't need all this actually. We can just write it in a simple one-line statement. So I'll remove this. And the timeout is of course the MS parameter that we introduced. And we are going to send this resolve over here. Okay. So this is good. And this delay is 150 by default because we are not sending anything over here, right? Progress bar here. So let's see how this works now. Okay, so of course we'll need to update the dependencies. And you know what, we can actually make this async. So if I write await over here, so this will be an asynchronous function. So if I save this and let me refresh, there you go. But yeah, it's a bit too slow for my taste. So if you're not happy with this, what you can do is, of course, you can, just come over here and we have made this dynamic, right? So that's the whole point of this. So if I just change this to 10, maybe, if we save this, okay, because we did it in the middle of the logic. So yeah, there you go. This is much better. What do you say? Yeah, this looks cool. It seems to be working correctly. So yeah, we are done with this project. We started with the designing of the loader that we have over here, and then we went ahead and implemented the API logic as well. And now I understand that this might feel a bit basic, but yeah, this is what it is. It's just to get you started. From here on, like if you're implementing this in your own project, this is like a very small part of a full stack project that we usually do. So if there comes a place where you're, say for example, signing up the user, so you're sending the data to the backend and then you're registering it and then you're sending back the information. So on these kind of situations, or somewhere, say for example, you are creating an e-commerce app and you are ordering the items, right? So a lot of backend processes happens, right? And we want the user to be able to know, okay, that our logic is progressing, that they're not stuck, they're not frozen. So in these kind of situations, these loaders are very helpful. So yeah, we are done with today's project, and I hope you liked it. And feel free to leave comments if you have any doubts or any questions for this project, or if you have any suggestions, feel free to go ahead. And criticisms are always welcome. So, yeah, uh, hope to meet you in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.